Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. Ladies and gentlemen, let me start off by saying that if there's an echo in here, I apologize. This is our side living room and I don't do many videos here, so I don't have any sound deadening devices here as I normally do. Like in my bunker, it's very sound deadening because there's a lot of stuff in there. Also, do not get scammed. Do not get scammed. I'm going to leave a short 20-second, 25-second video towards the end of this video to show you exactly how you can avoid getting scammed in the comments. I was going to leave it towards the beginning of the video, but that can become quite cumbersome for viewers to see it over and over again that have already seen it and know what the message is. So look out for that. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what is preparedness all about? Preparedness is so that you can have time to think about the situation at hand, so that you don't have to have a knee-jerk reaction when a crisis occurs, whether small or large. And it's also so that you can have control over your standard of living of the things that you can have no control over otherwise. So for example, I'm going to go over a few food items that you should be preparing right now into 2023. In my opinion, 2023, when it comes to food, when it comes to, the price of food and availability of food, is going to be worse than 2022 going forward. Many people are not thinking about the Tonga eruption that occurred a little over a year ago, about a year and a half ago or so.
A monstrous eruption which has left its mark on our planet. When Hunga Tonga Hunga Ha'apai blew its top in January, it scattered water vapor and ash halfway to space.
And that eruption spewed enough water vapor into the atmosphere where it can cause cooling in the lower half of this hemisphere. Now, I do understand that water vapor can cause warming. However, it can also cause cooling. And we're going to have to see how that unravels coming this year, because that has already engulfed the entire lower part of the hemisphere. And now it's going to start working itself into the northern part of the hemisphere, especially with the way that the jet streams have been acting, as we've noticed here in the last couple of weeks that we had those Arctic cold blasts, and also all of these floods that are now occurring in California and the West Coast because of all of these atmospheric rivers, as they are being called. You have no control over what food is grown and when it's grown unless you yourself grow enough food to feed your family for an entire year, which I would say that most people do not. So being that you have no control of where these green beans are grown or produced, you have absolutely no control over that unless you grow your own enough to last you a whole year. So by getting these now, and when I show you this example of green beans, I mean any kind of beans. Get dry beans, get beans in a can, get black beans if you eat black beans, pinto beans, whatever it is that you eat. The point is you have zero control over how much of this is produced, when it's produced, where it's produced, or at what price you're going to have to pay for it if you decide to buy it in order to consume it. So if you have no control over this, ladies and gentlemen, you have control over getting some of it now because it's still available. Although at a much higher price than it was last year, it's still available. Something that's really cheap to get and everyone needs is salt. Get salt first and foremost, because everybody needs salt. And this, ladies and gentlemen, for those people that forget to get it, this will be a great barterable item for you that you can use to barter if you get it in quantity now. Now, this salt is actually a little bit expensive. This is the one that I get at Kirkland, and this is about, I don't know, almost $4 now. I can't believe it. Almost $4 for this. However, if you want to get cheaper salt that still does the job, you can get a 25-pound bag of salt for like $8 or $9 at Costco or Sam's Club. And for those of you that don't like iodized salt, I know for a fact that the salt that comes in the 25-pound bags at Costco, that's non-iodized salt, right? So I believe that the ones they sell at Sam's Club is iodized. However, you can get whatever you want, but get salt and spices. Get spices, because if you get stuck only having rice to eat, wouldn't it be nice to be able to season that rice with different seasonings? That way you don't get food fatigue. Now, talking about the lower hemisphere, being that there may be some weather effects due to that volcano erupting a little over a year ago. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're a coffee drinker, get your coffee now. Coffee has only gone up in price here in the last several years. I've been talking about it for years now. It's going to continue to go up in price. And again, do you have any control over how much of this coffee is grown, where it's grown, how much of it is grown, and how much they're going to charge for it due to supply and demand? You have zero control over that. So have some control over having some coffee on hand. This is the best form of storage that I found in coffee, besides things that I get like from Nutrient Survival, their vitamin coffee that comes sealed, and in my opinion those are good for years. The oldest ones that I have are about 2 years old and they're still just fine. But for you regular coffee drinkers, as I am also, I love my Café Bustelo. These guys right here that come in these vacuum sealed Mylar bags in the form of a brick, these guys last a really long time. I've had some of these coffees for a really long time, and a lot of these coffees were sent to me by you, my community members. So thank you. I still have them and I still use it every once in a while. It's just that the packaged coffee that I get from Nutrient Survival is so convenient, and it's really, really good. So this coffee, I find that it lasts a very long time because it's sealed. Just make sure that it stays sealed. But coffee, ladies and gentlemen, teas. Get fruit drinks if you like fruit drink powders. That's going to last a long time on the shelf. All right, even if it has sugar, get those, because the worst thing that you want to go through is food fatigue. All right, food fatigue is when your body just doesn't want to eat the food that you're eating because there's no variety. And even though you know that you need that nutrition, you still don't want to eat it. This is going to be a big deal this year. Get canned meats. Or can your own meats if you can. All right, canned meats, ladies and gentlemen, chicken. I don't know if you've noticed, but chicken, raw chicken, has gone up in price a lot in the last couple of years, and it's only going to continue to go up in price. And we've actually received a bit of a reprieve at Costco on the price of chicken. If you all know, this chicken here at Costco for a pack of 6, I believe, went up to like $16, and now it's just under $14. So take advantage of the better prices now. $14 is not as good as like $9 and change, which is what this used to cost in a pack of 6 a couple of years ago, but it's a lot better than $16. So stock up on your meats, chicken, beef, fish like tuna or salmon. And if you can process it yourself, ladies and gentlemen. That way you can save a little bit of money. However, my rule with buying canned meats is that if I can buy my canned meats for cheaper than what it would cost for me to process myself, I'm buying the canned meats. I don't do pressure canning just to do it as a hobby. I do it as a necessity. So if I see that I can pressure can something and it's going to be cheaper than what it would be if I bought it in a can, then I'll pressure can it. However, if you can get it cheaper buying it in a can, go ahead and buy it in a can. And these guys, they last a very long time. This is just past its best by date. Right? It just passed its best by date this November. I have no problem with holding on to this and eating it a year or 2 years from now. And this is something that we do dip into. Everything in my pantry we do dip into, maybe not as often, but we still dip into it and we rotate. So I actually have cases of this on the floor getting ready to be rotated into the shelves after we use them off the shelf. So get your canned meats now because they're only going to go up in price. Not sure if you've heard that we have an aluminum shortage. Why? Because of the energy crisis. A lot of aluminum smelting plants, they have closed down, especially in Europe, because they can't afford the energy prices. And with an aluminum shortage, it's going to come a shortage of those things that are contained in aluminum. And although these cans are mainly tin, they have aluminum linings on the inside. The reason I believe they do that is because aluminum is a natural antimicrobial. With an aluminum shortage, it's going to come a can shortage, which means that's going to be a shortage of things that come in cans. So get those canned items now. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I've often heard people say that peanut butter will not last a long time. Look at this. This is 2019. There's absolutely nothing wrong with this peanut butter. Now this is my opinion, so do your own research and do your own experiments. As long as that seal is still on there, and it's still actually sealed, that peanut butter inside has always been good every time that I've used it, even though it's 2 or 3 years past the best by date. Right now, we're actually working off of a 2019 jar of peanut butter. That's about 3/4 of the way gone. So I have absolutely no problem with stocking these for long term because I've never once, not once have I had a bad experience with peanut butter being bad after its best by date, even if it's been years. Now, pastas usually give you a very good bang for your buck, meaning that you're going to get a lot of calories for your dollars. And pasta also has, believe it or not, a pretty good amount of protein in it. So pasta is a really good food to put away for long term, ladies and gentlemen. This kind of food, along with rice, is called a caloric maintenance food, meaning that it has a lot of calories. It may not have all of the nutrients that you need in it, but you can go ahead and make some of this and put some of those other foods on it and mix it with it that have those nutrients. So pasta is going to last a very long time on its own, in its own package. We took this out of the package and put it in here, but even if you leave it in its own package and the place where you store it is dry, it's going to last a very long time. And if you put it away for long-term storage, i.e. sealing it in a Mylar bag or a bucket with an oxygen 2 absorber, it's going to last even longer. So pasta right now, it's still cheap, considerably speaking. When you calculate how many pennies you're paying per calorie, it's still cheap. Stock up on pastas. Even if you have no way to store for long term, it's going to last a long time. And you can do so many things with pasta, ladies and gentlemen. Now, do you have any control over how much fruit you get, where you get it, right? No, you don't really have much control. I'm sure that some people in the comments are going to say, well, I have an orchard, I have fruit trees. That's great, but not many people do. If you don't, then make sure that you stock up on these things. Again, do you need this to survive? Absolutely not. But we go back to food fatigue. Wouldn't it be nice to take one of these out every once in a while? Take out a box of cake mix it together, put it in the oven, or heat it up however you're going to heat it up, if it's a grid down, whatever situation it may be, right? And then have yourself a nice cake with peach in it. I've made it before. I actually have a video where I do that along with, I believe it's apple pie mix. Comes out great. So get your canned goods in the form of fruits. It's just a great way to break the monotony. And if you have kids, I'm sure it'll bring a smile to their face after they've been eating rice and beans for a week or so. Easy to prepare meals. This here would make a great meal, especially if you put it over a bowl of rice. All you have to do with this is just heat it up however you want. Take it, put it over rice, and you're going to have a complete meal. You're going to have all of your carbohydrates with your rice, all of your calories, mainly with the rice, but this is going to give it a lot of flavor, and it does also give you a little bit of protein in it. This by itself, I would say it's not that big of a deal as far as getting all of the calories and nutrients you need, but this has flavor, this has texture. Putting some of this over rice, and it doesn't take a lot of energy to warm this up. That's another thing you want to think about. Get foods that it's not going to take a lot of energy to warm up or to cook. Right? So for example, rice, I know it would take rice about 20-30 minutes for me to cook a batch of rice for my entire family. So are you preparing to make sure that you can cook or prepare those things that you're storing away? You don't want to end up eating cold soup for a month or 2 weeks or even a week. You want to make sure that you sustain your standard of living to a level where you're not going to be miserable. Right? So instead of just surviving, that is what I would call striving, where you can sustain your standard of living and still be able to act in a manner that you always acted anyways before any crisis occurs. Now, ladies and gentlemen, when I'm talking to you about this, I'm not telling you that there's going to be a major world war. I'm not going to tell you that there's going to be a nuclear war. I have no idea what's going to happen. I'm not going to tell you that there's going to be a meteor strike. I don't know. But the reason to be prepared is so that you don't have to panic during a time of stress, so that you can use that time in order to figure out, hey, how are we going to get out of this situation without having to worry about how am I going to feed my family? How am I going to heat my family? How am I going to provide water for my family? That's what being prepared is about. And here I'm talking mainly about foods because I believe that food is going to be a very big issue this year in 2023 and going forward. So not just this year in 2023, everything's going to be great, but going forward, food is going to be a very big issue, not only because of geopolitical problems that we have around the world, but also because of weather, ladies and gentlemen, along with a various amount of other things that I'm sure you can pick, out of a hat and be like, yep, this is a problem we're having. Yep, this is a problem we're having. These problems may end, but they will not always all end at the same time. So just be prepared for anything. And having food is a great way to relieve stress during a time of crisis because you know that you have it. It's just insurance. I want to talk a little bit about comfort foods, and this here is a comfort food. It's not a must-have, but this right here is very easy to prepare for us, for the AP family. It's very tasty. We have a couple of boxes of these every month, so we always make sure that we have at least a year's supply. And comfort foods, ladies and gentlemen, going back to the fruit like I talked about, it's just something nice to bring out every now and then to bring up everyone's morale. It's not something that you're going to have every single day. Like I don't have this, we don't have this here every single day. But when we have it, it's because we like this and we're like, oh, cool, we're going to eat some of this right now because we like it. Right? So that's what a comfort food is. Something that brings you comfort, something that makes you smile, like chocolate. Make sure you get your chocolates, your candies, if you like candies. Not so that you can eat it every single day, but so that you can have it there to break the monotony. Because if we ever turn into a really big crisis, let's say, you're not going to be bringing out candy every single day. You're going to be surviving on the foods that you need, rationing it out, hoping that it lasts as long as the crisis, if not longer. However, every few days, maybe once a week, you can bring out some comfort food that you know everybody likes and that will bring a smile and bring up morale to those people that live with you, i.e. your family and or friends, in whatever situation you may find yourselves having to bring your friends into your home during a major crisis. Now, I'm sure that I can talk about 1,000 other things that you should be getting. However, we are all different. We are all in different parts of our lives. Some of us can have some things, some of us can have others. But I am very certain that every single person that's watching this video needs some kind of medicine, either to take on a regular basis or to just have in your cupboard in case someone in your family gets sick. And this is just over-the-counter suspended ibuprofen. It's ibuprofen that's suspended in a liquid. It doesn't taste bad. I really like promoting suspended ibuprofen and suspended medicines because they're easy to consume. So if you find yourself, let's say for example, you get strep throat and you need some kind of pain relief. This is a great way to get pain relief when you really don't want to be swallowing big pills. But the main point of showing you this is that you need to get all of the over-the-counter medications that you need. I'm not sure about that big country that's called China, but they produce a lot of the medications that we consume here, either RX or over-the-counter. And the other country that produces a big amount of medications that we import into the United States is India. And India gets a lot of their raw materials to make those medications from China. So pretty much China is where we get most of our medications from. So stock up on all of the over-the-counter medications that you feel you're going to need. I've found throughout the years that if you store these kinds of medications in the same manner that you store your food items in your pantry, keeping it at a good temperature, not a lot of humidity, keeping the rodents away from it, all of those rules that you have to follow in order for your food to last a long time, that they last just as long. Right? I've actually consumed medication like this that was like 3 years past the best buy date or the best use by date, and it actually worked. It took away my headache. I don't get headaches very often, but when I did use it, it worked. So I know that it works personally. It may be different for different people. Do your research, because I'm not a doctor, ladies and gentlemen. However, I know that this works for me, and I'm not afraid of stocking up on a good amount of medication like this because I already know that it works for me whenever I need it, even if it's past the best buy date. So get your medications now, because that's another thing. Not only do we have to worry about China cutting us off, which I think will eventually happen one day. However, we also have to worry about the price of everything just exploding the way that it's been exploding for the last few years. Inflation is not going to go down. All right, ladies and gentlemen, what's going to go down is the rate of inflation. But the prices that we have now, you better get used to living with those prices because they're going to stay here for a very long time. And that is why I prepare, ladies and gentlemen, because I want to make sure that my family has what they need when they need it, during crisis or not. Having said that, I hope that you got something out of this. Leave in the comments what kinds of things we should be preparing right now, because it's going to get a lot more expensive, or either there's going to be scarcity here in 2023 and going forward. Having said that, ladies and gentlemen, again, thank you very much for joining in. God bless every one of you. Have a great day. Take a look at the top message right here. That is not me. Now take a look at this one here in the bottom. This is me. And you will notice that next to my thumbnail, not only is my name kind of like highlighted in gray or black, but it also has a check mark next to it.